And welcome back. It's time today to finally push out my review of the Viltrox 13mm f1.4 that you see here attached to my XH2. Now, this lens, as you probably know, is the very first super fast, super wide autofocus lens for the Fujifilm system, and it's coming from a third-party manufacturer, which is not good. I mean, Fuji should have done that already a long time ago, but this is another story. We can talk about that forever. This is the reason why this lens is very, very, very interesting. And on the other hand, I was not impressed with the previous lenses from Viltrox. If you look at my video on the Viltrox 33mm, you will basically see that I did not like the lens too much, although that is fairly cheap. So I was kind of scared that this lens would have followed that path. Fortunately enough, it's in another league, completely another league when it comes to performance, image quality, autofocus, and all the rest. But we'll talk about that in a bit. This lens comes in at $500. At least this is the MSRP. Of course, you're gonna find different offers and all of that. Probably you're gonna buy it at a slightly lower price, but that is the MSRP for the lens. And it may seem expensive from, like, in the vacuum, it may seem expensive, but if you consider that this is super, again, as I said, a super wide, super fast and autofocus lens, those are not super easy to build. So I would say the price, if the lens performs good, the price is not that bad. And if you want to have a look at what this lens can do, stay tuned, because at the end you're gonna have a slideshow that is gonna show you some of the pictures that I captured with this lens. Although I must say, I haven't used it as much as I would have thought, but this is because for what I've done in the last months, I had to use more zooms than primes, and so that's why I haven't used it as much. The lens it's all metal, including the hood. It feels substantial. You can definitely see that the lens doesn't seem cheap. Once you have it in your hand, it doesn't feel cheap at all. It weighs 420 grams, which is of course, compared to the Samyang 12mm f2, it's double the weight. But at the same time, there is a stop darker, let's just say, and it's made of plastic. This is a metal lens that it's made to last. It fits perfectly, as you can see, it fits perfectly the XH line. I mean, it's not it's not too big for this camera, and it doesn't make it front heavy. You can easily handle it pretty good. Of course, with the XT line, especially the smaller, the XT30, XT20, it definitely becomes front heavy. Although it's not dramatically bad, but it's something you need to consider. The aperture ring is finally from Viltrox. Is a very good aperture ring. It's clicky. You can definitely hear that it's solid, that it has solid clicks, and it's very pleasing to use when you use it. Of course, we're talking more about stills than videos when you're using this. This, compared to the 33, that was completely declicked, but the aperture was moving with clicks anyway, so it was basically useless. This went all in for photography. It clicks with firm clicks, and it's right. It's definitely better. You can definitely feel that this is a premium lens. The build quality of this lens is very premium, and when you take it out of the box, you start thinking that you were not, like, the price was not that bad for how this lens is built. In my experience, the autofocus is super silent. It's very fast, although not as fast as something like the 18mm f1.4 from Fuji, but it's fast. and is reliable. What is important is that this autofocus is very reliable. In my test, it never failed me, and especially with the new cameras, the XH2 and XH2S, it is very, very, very reliable. I had a little bit of concerns with the X-T4, but that is completely gone with the new cameras. Meaning that at the end of the day, it was the X-T4's fault rather than the lens fault. Overall, when it comes to autofocus, it is a dependable lens also for video, but we're gonna touch video in a bit. Now let's focus on image quality. Of course, image quality is the most important thing, or one of the most important things when it comes to reviewing a lens. And I was really concerned because my experience with the 33 f1.4 from Viltrox was not that enjoying. So when I bought the lens, I was concerned that I was going to get that same kind of image quality. But fortunately enough, this lens is another league. It's completely another league compared to the 33 f1.4. And starting with something that I noticed, and if you've watched that video, you probably know, the 33 at f1.4 would expose darker than any other lens at f1.4. That means that same settings, same shutter speed, same aperture, same ISO, I would get a darker image with the Viltrox compared to another Fuji lens. With this one, I'm pleased to announce that this is not true anymore. This is an f1.4 that exposes exactly the same as the Fuji 18mm f1.4 does. Of course, there are different field of view, but that goes without saying. But the exposure-wise, they compare perfectly. So that issue is gone. This lens also has, if many people love the Fuji 16mm f1.4, also because you can focus really close and get you that kind of weird but pleasing shallow depth of field with a very close subject. This lens does it as well. I cannot compare it one-to-one with the 16 because I don't have it in my hands right now, but this allows for very creative shots when you want to go very, very close. Although at f1.4, if you're focusing at its minimum focus distance, it could be a little bit sharper when it's super close. But again, it is still usable, and you're looking at the picture with the 40 megapixel sensor. We're basically stressing all of my tests that you're seeing right now were done with the Fuji X-H2, with a 40 megapixel camera. That means stressing the lens out as much as we can right now. When it comes to distortion, the distortion is very well controlled. I don't have anything to complain about it. It doesn't get you that usually what you get is the barrel distortion. This doesn't. I mean, it's not visible. And even the prospective distortion, this is something that felt weird to me. It doesn't get you that super wide stretched corners that you probably would expect from a super wide angle lens. And that made me test this lens against the 10-24 just to see if the 13 millimeters was comparable to the 13 on that zoom lens, and they are. So it's not that Viltrox is cheating on the effective focal length. It's just the perspective distortion is not too bad, and it is good, but at the same time is surprising. You don't expect that. There is no visible field curvature effect. That means that if you focus in the center, the corner are going to be in the same plane of focus, and this is good. It's something that often becomes an issue with wide angle lenses especially. And it has some vignetting. The vignetting is there and it never goes away. It is very visible at f1.4. It improves a lot at f2. It gets even better at f2.8, and from there it's pretty much constant. It's never going away, but it's not too bad anyways. It's something to keep in mind, but it's nothing to worry about overall. And now let's focus on the sharpness of the lens, because I guess most of you are looking for that. Mind you, this is a test on a 40 megapixel sensor, so on the X-H2. At f1.4, so wide open, the lens is already very sharp in the center, while the corners are lagging a little bit behind. Although they're not super bad, actually they're decent already at f1.4. It improves constantly at f2, f2.8. Of course, it improves more at the corners than at the center. The center keeps improving a little bit, but starting from an already good performance at 1.4, it improves just a little bit step by step. And when you get to f4, the image is very even corner to corner, and the peak comes at f5.6. And it remains steady, so same performance up until f11. At f16, you see some diffraction to kick in, but it's not too bad. The image doesn't fall apart. So if you need f16 from this lens, you can definitely use it, even on a 40 megapixel sensor, which is something that is not common at all. I also tested the longitudinal chromatic aberration, and they're pretty much non-existent. I didn't see any of that. It is somehow prone to flare and ghosting. You can definitely see some, although it's not that bad. The fringing is very well controlled. I didn't see much to be worried about. The sun stars, in my first impression video, I mentioned that the sun stars were not that good, but I must have tested it the wrong way, because then I tested it like a couple of days ago. I went for sun stars, and sun stars are really good, really good. They're placing already at f10. You don't have to stop it down all the way down to get that pleasing image. The bokeh is not bad, although it's not dreamy. It sometimes becomes a little bit fuzzy, but again, we're talking about a super wide angle lens. You cannot expect the bokeh that is coming from a portrait lens. So it is usable, it is good. So I have no complaints. In general, from an overall standpoint, the image quality of this lens punches way above the price tag. I'm pretty confident saying that it punches way above its weight when it comes to image quality, and this is a really good thing, really good thing. Although, if you compare it to the 18 millimeters from Fuji, which I define the best lens that I've ever tried, it's still behind, but not too much. It's a really good lens when it comes to image quality. Talking about video. The focus, again, especially with the new cameras, is very accurate and reliable. The image quality, of course, it was good for pictures. It still remains good for video. This lens is non-stabilized, so it relies on the stabilization of your camera. Now, this gave me a couple of issues when I was shooting with the X-T4, because I would get a lot of IBIS artifacts that seem to be completely gone away with the XH2 and the XH2S. I tested it, I used it, and I had no stabilization artifacts. So this lens is very usable for video as well, and it comes perfect for vlogging, because with the new autofocusing on the new cameras, it never loses you. It never loses you, and if you wanna isolate yourself from the subject, you can't use the 10 to 24. You need to use something that goes way wider than that as far as aperture goes, and this lens, it fits perfectly that kind of usage. So I'm definitely pleased with how this lens works for video. So in conclusion, as you probably got from this video, is that I'm very impressed with this lens. I'm really pleased with the result that I got. I'm pretty pleased with what it can do, it cannot do. I couldn't use it as much as I wanted to, and I wanted to test it for astrophotography and landscape photography a lot more, but I couldn't. It's been super busy for me, and I haven't had the chance to do it. I will do it, and I will probably update you with another video on that. But the lens is super good. It's really good. The issue that I also highlighted with the flickering exposure while using the viewfinder, well, you thought it was exposed, but then it would change it once you have pressed the button, seems to be gone. So I don't know how. I didn't even update the firmware if I'm not wrong. So all the issues that I mentioned in the first impressions are pretty much gone. And to me, for the price, you can't ask for more. I mean, it's a $500 lens. Yes, it's not cheap, but it's not expensive either if you consider the kind of lens that this is. And I get that the size and the weight may be too much for some. It's not as portable as some of us would like for it to be, but it's not even dramatically huge or heavy. It's a good lens built very well with very good optical performance, and there's nothing more you can ask from a third-party manufacturer. It's basically a cheaper lens than the original ones, is very good, and it's built well. What else do you want? To me, this is by far the best Viltrox lens in the market. I mean, among those that I tried, it's followed closely, but not too close, by the 85 millimeters, and then all the rest, which I was not super convinced about. And I would definitely recommend it to anybody who's looking for a super bright, super wide-angle lens for your Fujifilm system. It is definitely worth to be bought for your system. You will not be disappointed. I guess that's it for today. As usual, I will ask you to subscribe if you like the video. Leave me a thumbs up. Leave me in the comments your idea, your thoughts. If there's something else you want to know that I missed in my review, I'm here. Let me know. I guess that's it. Ciao, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.